Okay, hello everybody. I believe we are live. Welcome to this webinar. Eric Thayne here. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's just do a double check before we jump into this. I want to know if you guys can hear me. Please type in the chat. Let me know where you're from. And if you do that, then I will know that you can hear me. You can see my slides here on the screen, and then I'll know that we can go ahead and get started. So let's take care of that first, and then we'll go ahead and jump into this here. How's everybody doing? Give me 1 second here to pull up my control panel so that I can see your chat. And here we go. Okay, so I've got some chat coming in. Okay, awesome. We got some people. Oh, good stuff. This is working. Good, good, good. I'm glad. Let's see. Okay, we got the chat coming in. You guys can hear me. Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Welcome everyone to this webinar. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm really excited to have you here and to share this information with you. So today we're going to be talking about how to make cinematic films and get high-paying clients as a filmmaker, and yes, without buying expensive gear. I'm going to be going through a lot of content here today, and I want you guys to know that everything I'm showing you can be done with any camera, whether it's an iPhone or Android phone, a DSLR or mirrorless camera, or a cinema camera like a Red or an Arri camera. So let's get into it, okay? Welcome everyone. Welcome Kerwin, Colton, Ian, Lynn, Ramir, John, Edmund, Nikolai, Florentino. I hope I'm pronouncing your names right. Welcome guys. Thanks for being here. Okay, so I'm not going to waste any time. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about what we're going to be covering today, okay? So today, I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about how I got into filmmaking and what steps I took to get to where I am today, which is one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time. Then I'm going to be sharing with you my top 9 cinematography tips to help you get more cinematic looking images with the gear you already own. Again, this works with any camera. And then we'll talk about my top tips for making money, doing what you love, making videos. And then if you guys are all right with it, after I've given you tons of free value here today, I'm going to be giving you a special offer on my Cinema Mastery course just for webinar attendees, for those of you that want to take your learning to the next level beyond what we're talking about here today. And last but not least, I will be doing Q&A and answering as many of your questions as we have time for, so hang on to your questions until the end. If you have questions, feel free to click on the speech bubble icon. It should open up a drop-down where you can choose to ask a question. And if you choose that when you're asking questions, it'll put your questions into a separate column for me. That way I can see exactly what your questions are. I've got a couple people saying no video. Is that everybody or is that just a few of you? Let me know in the chat. And if it's just a few of you, then go ahead and let those people know to refresh maybe. I'll wait to hear from you guys, make sure we're all set. No video, no video. Okay, let me double check that. What's going on here? Oh, I see. Let me know in the chat. Let's make sure we that everything's working here before I continue. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for letting me know. I forgot to turn on the screen share option. Okay, awesome. So we're talking about what we're going to be covering here today. And video is working. Okay, what we'll be covering. Awesome. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering today. Once again, as I was talking about, if you have questions, make sure to post them in click on the speech bubble icon and choose ask a question. That way it'll put it in a separate column for me and I can get through those at the end. While I'm giving the presentation, I'm not going to have time to go through as many questions, although I do appreciate you guys being engaged in the chat. But at the end, I will do Q&A so I can make sure that I can answer those questions. If you still can't see the video or anything, It looks like most of you got it. Just refresh, and that should get you sorted, okay? All right, now I always have people asking how long the webinar is gonna be, and it will be about an hour long, maybe a little bit longer depending on the Q&A. And no, this is not just gonna be an hour of me pitching my product to you. I promise we're gonna be covering a lot of really valuable information taken straight out of the Cinema Mastery course. In fact, I have been told that this is the best filmmaking webinar that some people have ever attended. So I'm gonna make sure this next hour is well worth your time, even if you decide not to take me up on the offer later. Now, real quick, let's talk about who this training is for, because I wanna make sure you guys know you're in the right place. I basically found that there are 3 groups of people that can benefit from this webinar. One is people who are not currently making money for their videos, but maybe you're not interested in making money. You just want to make videos for fun and learn how to make them better. 2 is filmmakers who are not yet making money from their videos, but you want to learn how to make videos that will get you paying clients so you can make money from them. And 3 is the more advanced filmmakers who are already making money, but you want to learn how to make your videos better so that you can get paid even more for your work. Like I already mentioned, this training works with any camera, and what I'm going to show you today can help you get where you want to be, whether it's your first paying client or making $10,000 or more for one video. And it applies to any type of video work: wedding videos, commercials or promos, music videos, travel videos, event videography, corporate videos, or narrative work like short and feature films. And just so you know, this training is going to be more catered towards beginners and intermediate filmmakers. But for those of you that are more advanced, definitely stick around, because even though we're covering some basics today, we will make our way into some more advanced concepts. And at the end, I've got a free gift for you guys. I'm going to be giving you my $47 ebook, The Top 3 Hollywood Lighting Techniques, for absolutely free. These are the top 3 lighting techniques used by professionals in Hollywood today. And the book comes complete with explanations, diagrams, and examples, so you can use each of these in your work. This is my way of saying thank you for investing your time with me on this webinar. So I'll give you a link to download that for free at the end. All right, so let's get right into the training. My name is Eric Thayne. I am 27 years old and I'm based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. I am a professional director and cinematographer, and I'm also the owner of Saladora Studios, a full-service production agency where we produce high-end, cinematic, emotionally driven video content to help brands tell their customer story. When I started out, I was doing event video work for basically free, but within a few years after starting my company, I built up to the point where we now have clients paying us anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 for a 60-second commercial spot. Because of my career as a filmmaker, I've been able to be part of some really cool projects, work with amazing clients, and travel to many places around the world. In fact, in just the last few years, I've traveled to almost every continent. I've been to 13 foreign countries and visited 9 states. And this is one of my favorite things about being a filmmaker, is that I've gotten to experience some amazing things through my work that I wouldn't have otherwise. So I am legit, I do this professionally, and I'm really excited to share with you guys today some of what I've learned over the years. So let's jump in. All right, so I want to tell you guys a little bit about how I got into filmmaking in the first place. And I want to share this with you in hopes that if you're not sure where to begin or how to get started, it will kind of resonate with you where you're at right now. I actually made my very first videos when I was just 11 years old, but I didn't actually start taking videos seriously as a business until about 5 years ago. In 2013, I was finishing up my degree in graphic design, actually, at BYU, Brigham Young University, when I took a photography class. And ironically, that same semester, they were offering a YouTube class, which I also took. The problem was, in order to take the photography class, I had to have a DSLR with manual controls, but I didn't have the money to get one. So I went to my dad and said, hey, is there any way that we can make this happen? He was really reluctant at first about spending hundreds of dollars on a camera for me, but with some tugging and pulling, I finally convinced him it was a worthwhile investment. And that year I got a Canon T2i for Christmas. Around the same time, I had also been watching a lot of music videos by cover artists on YouTube. And one of the big ones was this band right here, Boyce Avenue. Maybe some of you guys know them. I loved how their videos looked so professional, and being a musician myself, they inspired me to make my own music videos, so I started uploading videos of me playing the piano to YouTube. They started out really simple, mostly just the camera on a tripod while I played, but for this particular video that you're seeing here, I decided I want some movement in the camera. So I asked my roommate to come and hold the camera for me and walk around while I played so I could get some close-up shots. Now, even though they were simple, it wasn't long before these videos actually started getting some attention and views, and I found myself working really hard to make every video better than the last one. I spent dozens of hours in front of the computer looking up tutorials on YouTube, and as I'm sure you guys have experienced, it was sometimes really frustrating because I felt like most of the time I was watching maybe a 20-minute video, but only about a minute of it was actually valuable information that I didn't know already. Plus, there was no way of knowing if the information was even correct, so I ended up having to relearn things down the road that I had learned wrong the first time. And that's part of the reason why I created Cinema Mastery, so that other filmmakers like you guys can save months and even years on the learning curve. You can save a lot of money in the process and get started growing your filmmaking business faster. But more about that in a minute. So I remember being frustrated at first because I couldn't make my videos as good as the ones that inspired me. But with lots of trial and error and lots of practice, I began figuring it out. I wasn't making any money from these videos. I was really just doing it for fun because I loved it. But over time, my videos got better and better, and people started sharing them like crazy, and I was getting hundreds of thousands of views on each video. I started getting attention from some pretty big news sources, and many of my videos were featured by some of the biggest sites on the internet, but I still wasn't making any money from my work. I was just doing it because I loved it. Eventually, though, I began to realize that there were people out there who would actually pay me money to make videos for them. And I got my first paying client for $200 shooting a dance party in my town. I remember actually taking some friends and roommates with me to the party because I was nervous about shooting the video by myself. But by the end of the night, I ended up getting up on stage with the DJs, getting some amazing footage, and the client loved the video. Over time, I kept sharing my work on social media and making YouTube videos, and I started getting more and more paying work. And that was when I realized that I didn't actually want to do graphic design anymore, and I wanted to make videos instead. So I finished up the project with one of my last graphic design clients, and I used all the money that I made from that one project to buy my next camera, a Canon 5D Mark III. Now, one thing I want to note about this is that I built my business up using a cheaper camera until I got to a point where I could comfortably afford a new camera. I didn't buy the new camera hoping that it would increase my business. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, which we'll talk about more in a little bit, is that while it's important to constantly be growing and evolving, you should never expect your camera to do the work or get the clients for you. At the end of the day, the camera is just a tool, and what will really make your work grow is mastering your skills as a filmmaker through learning, practice, and experience. Now, that same year, I started a production company with a good friend of mine, and we continued shooting music videos and commercial videos for a lot of local clients and musicians. One of the biggest points of this stage of my career was when we met a YouTube singer named Madeline Bailey, who had over 3 million subscribers on her YouTube channel. She loved our work so much that she actually flew out to Utah to shoot 3 music videos with us. And then a few months later, she actually flew us out to her home in Wisconsin to shoot her wedding video, which now has over 5 million views on YouTube. That was my first official experience traveling to shoot video, and I was instantly hooked. The next year, I broke off from my business partner and I started my own production company called Celadora, and I decided to try and focus my work on creating beautiful cinematic videos for commercial and music clients. I wanted to take that cinematic look that you see in the movies and start applying it to my commercial work to make my videos stand out from the crowd the way movies do. Within less than 2 years, I grew my business from doing videos for less than $1,000 to getting more than $15,000 for a single video. And in 2016, for the first time in my life, I made over $100,000 in 1 year. And it's not all about the money. Creating a comfortable living as a filmmaker has opened up so many opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and has created a lifestyle of freedom for me that I wouldn't trade for anything. Now, because I work primarily with higher paying clients, I don't have to spend hours of every single day grinding to get a paycheck. So I'm able to spend more time with family and friends. My wife was able to quit her job and become a full-time mom, and she and I have traveled all over the world since getting married just a few years ago, some of those for work and some just for fun. Now, looking back on all the time that I spent building my filmmaking business, I realized that I actually did a lot of things right, sometimes without even knowing it. But I also did a lot of things wrong. It took me years and years of trial and error to figure out the things that I'm going to show you today. So when I became successful with my production company, I found that I had a lot of people emailing me questions or wanting to take me to lunch to pick my brain or come work on set with me. And so I decided to take all of the information that I've learned over the past 5 years on how to make videos that look beautiful and cinematic and how to get paid to do what you love. And I packaged it up into a comprehensive cinematography course called Cinema Mastery. So now other filmmakers like you guys don't have to go through the same years of trial and error and mistakes that I made to get here. And through this program, I've had the opportunity to teach filmmakers from all over the world how to do what I do and watch them get amazing results fast. After starting Cinema Mastery, I emailed my list of filmmakers asking, what is the one thing you're struggling with most? And what do you want to learn? And I got about 100 responses back. So I'm constantly updating the course with videos, answering your biggest questions instead of me just guessing what people want to know. So now the course is jam-packed with everything you need to know to get started with filmmaking and make a full-time living making videos, starting from the very basics all the way through to more advanced concepts. There's already over 15 hours of content in the course, and I'm constantly adding to it so you always get the most up-to-date content. Now, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this story, it's that I started out just like anybody else. I didn't get lucky or happen to be in the right place at the right time. And there was no one big moment that completely changed my career, but rather I worked hard from the very beginning to make the best quality content I possibly could, and then worked relentlessly to make it even better. And even though I wasn't being paid to make videos at first, I was doing it because I love it, which propelled me to work really hard and to create lots of value for people before ever seeing a dime. And that's another big takeaway. Creating value for people, and sometimes this means doing work for free, is the best way to build relationships and start getting paying jobs. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. So if you're feeling like maybe you're not cut out for this for some reason, I want to put those fears to rest. You can do this just like I did. You just need the right person to explain it to you. And today, that's what I'm going to do. So now I want to spend the rest of the time we have together giving you as much free information as I can. And we're going to start out talking about my top 9 cinematography tips to help you make cinematic images with any camera. Who is excited about this? Let me know in the chat. Let me get the chat going and just here. I want to know that you guys are excited before we start jumping into these top 9 cinematography tips, because we're going to be going over a lot of really awesome information, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with you today. Okay, awesome. Let's do it, Lee. Good stuff. Okay, here we go. So if you haven't yet, now is the time to get out a pen and paper, because we're going to be flying through a lot of content over the next 15 or 20 minutes, and I want to make sure you're able to get all of it. Once again, all of this material is being pulled straight out of Cinema Mastery, so you're actually getting a sneak peek at what's inside. But like I mentioned, I don't have time to cover everything in a 1-hour webinar, but I want to make sure to at least give you the best stuff right now. So let's do this. Before we dive into tip number 1, it's important that we talk real quick about the word cinematic, because this is a word that people use a lot and that I use a lot. So I want to make sure that we're on the same page when I say it. Okay? The definition of cinematic is having qualities characteristic of motion pictures, which basically means that something looks like a movie, right? Movies have a very specific look to them that does a really good job of grabbing people's attention and pulling them in. So if you can learn the same techniques that make movies so attractive, it will help you to also attract clients to your work. Let's be honest. There's a lot of people out there competing for video work. So if you're going to make it, you have to make your work stand out. And I'm telling you, this is the best way to do it. Okay, so tip number 1, camera settings. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, I already know camera settings. This is too basic or something like that. But keep in mind that although camera settings are basic, they're also foundational to getting the cinematic look. And these settings I'm going to share are some of the biggest problems I actually see when I'm reviewing other people's work. So if you already know these, just sit tight, because we'll get to some more advanced stuff as we go. All right, number 1, first and foremost, learn how to use manual settings. When I was taking the photography class that I told you about, I remember they forced us to use manual camera settings for every class assignment. This was really hard for me at first because I was the type of person who would just grab a camera, flip the dial to auto, and start shooting. How many of you guys are doing this currently? Okay? So every single photo I took for that class, I had to actually use manual settings. And I remember it was really hard for me at first because all the settings do different things, and I couldn't remember all of them. But as it turns out, having manual control over your camera settings is extremely important for getting the right look in camera. So it's worth the hassle to switch over to manual mode and start getting used to it. Number 2, frame rate and shutter speed. These are 2 of the most foundational settings for getting a cinematic look in your videos. To get a cinematic movement and motion blur that looks like the movies, you should always set your frame rate at 24 frames per second and set your shutter speed to double your frame rate, meaning that if you're shooting 24 frames per second, your shutter should be 1/48th of a second. And if your camera doesn't give you the option to choose 1/48th, then just set it to 1/50th and it will be close enough. This combination of settings will give you the right movement and the right amount of motion blur so that it feels like a movie. If you set your shutter speed too low, then you'll get too much blur. And if you set it too high, then there won't be enough blur and it'll look too sharp. Okay, number 3, white balance. White balance is a setting that allows you to balance your camera to the light you're shooting with. So different lights have different color temperatures, which are measured in Kelvin. For example, daylight is a bluer color, about 5,600 Kelvin, while your typical interior lights are usually more orange, usually around 3,200 Kelvin. So it's important that you balance your camera sensor to the type of light that you're shooting with. So if you're shooting outside in daylight, you should set your white balance closer to 5,600 Kelvin. Whereas if you're shooting indoors with lights, you'll usually want your white balance to be closer to 3,200. Getting the white balance right will help the colors in your video to be more accurate, but you can also use white balance to make your images warmer or cooler. So if you're shooting at sunset, you might use a higher white balance if you're shooting to make it look warmer, or if you're shooting at twilight, you might use a lower white balance. Whatever you do though, make sure you turn off auto white balance because like I mentioned already, you need to take control of your images rather than letting the camera do it for you. Okay, number 4 is exposure. Probably one of the biggest signs of amateur videography is images that are not properly exposed. So here are 3 examples of images. The one in the middle is exposed properly, while the one on the left is too dark and the one on the right is too bright. So when judging exposure in camera, the best way to get this right is to use your histogram, which is the little graph you see below the images. Notice how on the overexposed image, most of the information is to the right, and on the underexposed image, most of the information is to the left. You want to make sure your histogram looks like the middle one so that the information in the image is spread evenly throughout so that you get a proper exposure. This is a really difficult thing to fix on the computer in post, so make sure you get it right in camera. And the last camera setting I want to cover is resolution. This is a question that I get asked a lot. Is 4K necessary for making your videos look cinematic? And the answer is absolutely not. Most of the movies you watch today are actually still projected in theaters in 1080p HD. So if it's good enough for them, I think it should be for you too. Plus, 4K monitors and TVs are still really expensive and not mainstream yet. And most people are watching content on their phone, so it doesn't really make a difference. That being said, however, keep in mind that within the next couple of years, 4K will probably become the standard for video content. So if you can shoot in 4K, it'll help you to stay ahead of the curve, but just don't let that stop you from getting out and creating. Plenty of amazing work is still being done in HD. Okay, so there's 5 camera settings that will help you get more cinematic images out of your camera. On to number 2, camera support. Now, depending on the story you're trying to tell, you might want the camera movement to look different. For example, if you're shooting an intense, action-packed scene, you might want to use a more shaky handheld look. Or if you're shooting just some basic dialogue or a talking head, you'd probably want a more stable tripod shot. But no matter what type of movement you choose for your video, you always have to make sure that your camera is supportive. And you should use the right tool for the type of movement you want. And this is especially important with handheld movement because a lot of filmmakers think that you get handheld movement by simply holding the camera, right? That's what it says, right? But if you do that, your footage will end up really shaky, even if you can't see it while you're shooting. So make sure to get your camera on a shoulder rig or an easy rig or something like that. Or alternatively, if you don't have the money to buy one of those, you can always wrap your camera strap around your neck and pull it tight to help stabilize it for a quick fix. Okay, number 3, let's talk about focal lengths. Your focal length is how much your lens is cropped in or zoomed in on your subject, and it's measured in millimeters. So a wide lens will have a bigger field of view, like this top image, and a long lens will have a smaller field of view, like this bottom image. The different types of focal lengths you can get on lenses are fisheyes, ultra wide, wide, normal, and telephoto. And you can even get into like super telephoto range, but it's all kind of the same thing. Fisheye lenses are pretty common for like skateboarding videos and concert videos, since they have the most warping around the edges, which is something that's called barrel distortion. And the wider the lens, the more barrel distortion you get. Next, we have the ultra wides, which are most commonly used for landscapes because they make the scenery look massive and it's really cool. Then we move into the range, where this is the range actually where most movies are shot, starting with the wide focal length, which is mostly used for wide establishing shots of scenes or to show, everybody in the scene or show the space that your subject is in. And the next one is the normal range, around 50 millimeters, which is probably the most commonly used focal length in movies because it has a very natural shape to it with very little barrel distortion and works really well for medium shots and close-ups, so it's really versatile. And lastly, we have telephoto lenses, which are normally used for shooting objects either that are really far away or for getting macro shots of very small objects like bugs. So make sure you use the right focal length for the shot you're getting and try to vary it up for different shots. For example, you might start with a wide shot to kind of establish the space and then cut into a close-up to focus on one character and what they're doing, okay? Number 4, ND filters. People always ask how I get the blurred background look when I'm shooting outside and stop the highlights from blowing out in the background, and the answer is to use ND filters. An ND filter is basically like sunglasses for your lens, and it makes the image darker or brighter depending on where you set it. My favorite ND filter is the ProMaster Variable ND, which just screws onto the front of your lens, and it allows you to twist it in order to change the amount of filtration. What this does is that it frees up your other camera settings like the aperture, so you can use your aperture to control the amount of depth of field in your shot or how much the background is blurred out. Because if you don't use an ND filter, then you won't be able to get that nice blurred background effect, which looks really cinematic. All right, next up is number 5, the 180-degree rule. This rule basically means that if you draw a line between two subjects in your video, you should always keep the camera on one side of that line. So you can cover all of your angles from this side of the line. Like you can see the camera here, you've got 180 degrees worth of angles that you can cover here. But you can't cut to an angle on the other side of the line. What this does is it keeps the viewer from being confused about where the camera is in the space. So for example, in this image, you see the little girl on the left looking towards camera right at her mom. But if I were to cut from this shot to this one, then now the little girl is on the right and looking left toward her mom. And this can be really confusing to the viewer. And that's why it's always best to stick to one side of the line. Make sense? All right, number 6 is lighting. And this one is huge. I personally believe that knowing how to work with light and control the light in your scenes is the biggest factor in making your videos look good. And it has been absolutely crucial to my success as a cinematographer. Now, in the full Cinema Mastery course, we spend almost a third of the whole course just on lighting. It's that important. So if you want to learn lighting in depth, I'm going to give you an offer to sign up later. But for now, here's a few tips to at least get you started. There are basically 2 types of lighting: natural lighting and studio lighting. I think it's important for every videographer to learn studio lighting so that you know how to set up your own lights and create videos that look natural. But even if you're shooting with natural light, it's important to know how to work with it. So I want to give you some tips for both, starting with natural lighting. So number 1, if you're shooting outdoors, make sure that you're shooting at the right time of day. Depending on the time of day you shoot, you can get different looks in your camera. And the 2 best times of day to shoot, generally understood, are around sunrise and sunset, because that's when you get the best light. My personal favorite time to shoot is at blue hour, which is the hour before sunrise or the hour after sunset. This time of day is when you get the best sunset colors and everything turns a really pretty blue. On the other hand, if I'm shooting for a daylight look, I'll usually shoot during golden hour, which is the hour after sunrise or the hour before sunset. So the first hour of light during the day or the last hour of light during the day. And shooting at golden hour gives you a very beautiful golden sunlight look that looks really cinematic. Whatever you do, try to avoid shooting in the middle of the day, as it can cause harsh shadows from the sun beaming down on your subject and it doesn't look very flattering. Okay, number 2, use windows. If you're shooting indoors, try turning off the interior lights and putting your subject next to a window. Windows naturally produce a very soft light that is really flattering on the subject and flat out looks beautiful. So if you can, in the place that you're shooting in, try to position your subject by a window to take advantage of this. And number 3, again, when shooting outside, put the sun behind your subject. Like I mentioned already, midday sunlight hitting the broad side of your subject's face can look really harsh and nasty. When you position your subject so that the sun is behind them, it gives them a nice golden backlight while making the light on their face really soft. Plus, if you can get the sun at just the right angle to the lens, you can get all sorts of lens flare and veiling effects that look really pretty in camera. And this can be especially perfect for something like a wedding video. All right, now let's move on to studio lighting. If you ever tried working with natural light and you still couldn't get the right look, then you know what I'm talking about when I say it's important to learn studio lighting. What this means is lighting your scenes with your own lights rather than using the sun. So tip number 1 for studio lighting is use directional lighting. One of the biggest mistakes that beginner filmmakers make is overlighting their scenes, where they have lights coming from all directions all over the place, and it creates really flat lighting on the subject. You can fix this problem by adding a single light source to your image, and this is called a key light, which is the main source of light hitting your subject. And because it's only one light, it can only come from one direction, which gives your subject contrast with a light side and a dark side, and it makes it look so much better. Number 2 is reverse key lighting. Most people will teach you to place your key light close to the camera, a little bit above eye line, and at about a 45-degree angle to light your subject from the front, like what you're seeing here. Now this looks good already, but we can make this image even better by doing a simple reverse key lighting setup, which means we move the key light to the opposite side of the subject. And you can see instantly how much more shape and depth this lighting technique gives to the subject's face, and it looks so much more cinematic. Let me go back one more time. You can see how flat this lighting looks currently. And when we reverse the key light, suddenly you get so much more shape and depth to her face. And I would say that probably about 90% of scenes in Hollywood movies are lit this way. So next time you're watching a movie, pay attention to the lighting and you'll start to notice that this is being done all over the place. And number 3 for studio lighting is to use practicals. All right, usually with studio lighting, the lights that you're using are hidden outside the camera frame, and all the camera sees is how the light is hitting your subject, right? A practical, however, is a light that you can see in the frame. So for example, a lamp would be a practical. A flashlight is another good example. Practicals can be used to create a feeling of depth in the shot, add light to the background, or even just be a prop that your subject is holding. Here's an example from one of my cinema masters, Jonas, and this is a frame from an interview that he shot before joining Cinema Mastery, and here's one he shot just a few weeks later. He made some really good decisions. I mean, it's crazy the difference here in these images. And he made some really good decisions with his lighting that made this second shot look so much better than the first. But one of the biggest contributors to this look, I think, is the practical lamp in the background. So use practicals. All right, so there's 3 tips for studio lighting. Now let's move on to number 7, editing. This is another one where I don't have hours to teach you my entire editing workflow, but I want to at least give you some tips. And of course, the full Cinema Mastery course goes in depth into this subject for those of you that are interested. First of all, a question that I get asked a lot is which editing software is the best? Now, I personally use Adobe Premiere Pro, and I think it's one of the best options out there, but that's not to say that other options don't work. I know plenty of high-end professionals who use Final Cut Pro and get great results with it. But if you're just starting out, you don't have the budget to buy professional software, there's also some good free editing options out there like iMovie, Avid Media Composer First, or DaVinci Resolve. I actually started out using iMovie to edit my videos before I had the money to spend on more expensive software. The bottom line is, though, the software you use is less important than your skills in using it, so mastering your editing skills is going to make a bigger difference in the quality of your videos than which program you choose. As far as editing goes, no matter what program you're using, I strongly recommend keeping your files very well organized. Every client and project gets its own folder on my hard drive. And then inside each project folder is where I save the main project file. And then I create separate folders for video, audio, music, and stills. Any video that I shoot goes in the video folder. The audio folder holds sound effects or voiceover recordings. Music holds the background music. And any stills that I grab from the video go in the stills folder. And then all of these folders get imported into Premiere exactly like this, so everything gets referenced correctly. When editing, I always start out by going through all the footage that I've shot and finding the best clips, and I put them in their own timelines separate from the main timeline. And then I take the best pieces from those clips, and those are what end up in the final videos. And this is how I make sure that I only get the best stuff in the video, which makes the video way more awesome. Now, sound design is also incredibly important for making your video cinematic, so make sure you don't just pay attention to the visuals, but also to how the video sounds. And there are a ton of really great free sounds that you can use at freesound.org if you don't have any. And I often go there to get mine as well. Now, when exporting, choose a preset based on the final destination of your video. So if you're uploading the video to YouTube, you can just use a YouTube preset. Or if you want a high quality export, you could use something like Apple ProRes. And inside the full course, I'll teach you exactly how to get these codecs installed and working on your computer. Okay, tip number 8, music. Now, another question that I get asked a lot is, where do you get music for your videos? Now, these are my favorite options right here, my 6 favorite options listed in order from highest quality to lowest quality and consequently most expensive to cheapest. Now, I personally like to hire a composer for our commercial shoots, which does get expensive, but it's really the best way to get what you want. But if you don't have the budget to hire somebody, MusicBed is a really great option with very high quality music, though still somewhat pricey for some people at around $200 per clip for a commercial license and $50 for a personal or wedding license. There's also Artlist and Soundstripe, and those are only $100 to $200 a year for unlimited music, so those are really great options. And then if you're looking for really affordable, like one-time licenses, I would recommend either Audio Jungle or Premium Beat. Again, they don't have as good as quality as the higher up ones, but they still can work for some things, and I have occasionally used them. Okay, and then number 9, the last tip for you guys is aspect ratio here real quick. Now, most cameras these days by default shoot in a 16:9 aspect ratio, but you can crop your footage down in post to make it look more like widescreen. Just by adding black bars. Okay, so you can make it look, sorry, this is a 16:9. And just by adding black bars to the top and bottom of your footage, you can instantly make your videos look more cinematic because it kind of replicates the look of the type of lenses that Hollywood movies are usually shot on. So there you go. Let me go back one more time. You can see the 16:9 image. And then by cropping it down, it just makes it look more cinematic. Okay, so those are the 9 cinematography tips that I wanted to share with you guys. What are you guys thinking so far? Did you enjoy that? Were those helpful to you? Are you guys excited about this? Because in a minute we're going to be moving on to some business stuff. But I wanted to share those with you first. I need a drink. Okay, awesome. All right. So those are 9 cinematography tips that I want to share with you. Now let's move on to 5 business tips for making money as a filmmaker. And here they are. Okay, awesome. So like I mentioned earlier, I really personally believe that there's never been a better time to be a filmmaker. It used to be that the filmmaking industry was reserved for people with money because all the cameras and gear and lights and everything that you had to have were so expensive that it was a really hard industry to get into. But nowadays, camera gear has become so affordable and so accessible, it's easy for anyone to get started. With the advent of things like drones, gimbals, cheap lenses, mirrorless cameras, for just a few $1,000s, you can get pretty much everything you need to create cinematic videos for high-paying clients. And businesses are creating more video content than ever before. In fact, the online video industry is expected to become a $13.7 billion industry by 2020, which is almost double what it was just a few years ago. And somebody has to create that content for these companies. So that's where you come in. So even if you're a beginner and you've never worked for a client before, don't think that you're too late in the game, because there is plenty of work to go around and more on the way. So let's jump into my 5 business tips for making money as a filmmaker. And again, I don't have time to cover these all in depth. I wish I did, but I want to at least share them with you so you know what they are. So tip number 1, invest in yourself. Now, this might sound obvious, but the absolute core of your business as a filmmaker is your work. If your videos aren't good, it's going to be hard for you to get clients to pay you money to make them, obviously, right? So if your goal is to make money, it stands to reason that you should put a majority of your resources into improving your cinematography and business skills. You've probably heard the phrase, it takes money to make money, right? And I think that phrase is especially applicable to filmmakers because in order to make money as a filmmaker, you have to be willing to spend money on your education. I know there's a lot of free content out there, especially on YouTube, and that can be a really great resource for getting started. I've personally watched hundreds of hours of YouTube content, especially when I was starting out. But I didn't see my knowledge of cinematography really start to grow until I started investing my money in online courses, books, and in personal mentorship. Now, like I've already mentioned in this webinar, just buying a newer, more expensive camera won't make you a better filmmaker. It's the skills, practice, and knowledge you gain from studying high quality content. So be willing to invest in yourself and your future, and you will attract more people to your business who are willing to invest in you. Okay, tip number 2, do work for free. Now, this might sound really counterintuitive, but one of the best ways to get paying clients into your business is to do free work. Some of the best clients I ever worked with actually came from jobs that I did for free. A few years ago, I got in touch with the marketing director at a high-end luxury hotel property up in Park City, Utah. They needed a video but didn't have a budget for it, so I actually offered to do it for free so that I could put them in my portfolio. Now, despite not getting paid for the job, I still spent 3 days shooting it, and I made the video the absolute best I possibly could. And they were so happy with it. The next year, they paid me $5,000 to do another video, and this year I did a $15,000 video for the same company, and we're already talking about the next one for later this year. And that's something I want you to take away from this tip, that no matter what budget you're given or who you're working with, always, always, always do your absolute best work for the client. Building a relationship with them and impressing them with your work and your work ethic is often far more valuable than getting a paycheck for a job. Because as you can see here, it can have really huge returns for you down the road. Number 3 is your portfolio. So if the core of your business as a filmmaker is your work, then your portfolio is the most powerful marketing tool you have in your arsenal. Your portfolio is where your potential clients can see your work and decide if they want to give you money for it. It's an important part of the decision-making process, so it's important that you get this right. When putting your portfolio or your reel on a website, make sure that it showcases only your very best work. It can be only a few pieces of work, and that's fine, but it's better to have a few really good projects than to have a ton of really mediocre projects. And this kind of goes hand in hand with doing free work, because often the work that you do for free ends up being your best work because you don't have a client telling you what to do. So it's a good idea to use your free work to build a portfolio that is specifically designed to attract your ideal client. And this is what the top videographers and the top filmmakers, the most successful people that I know, are doing to get their clients. Number 4 is networking. So there's an old saying that you've probably all heard that goes, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I think this is definitely true, but I would even take it one step further and say, it's not who you know, but it's who knows you. At the end of the day, people are going to work with people that they know, like, and trust. So you'll never get work from people who don't know who you are. So the best way to make sure more people know you, like you, and trust you is with networking. So now that you've invested in yourself and you've built up a portfolio of work that is perfect fit for your ideal client, the best thing you can do is get out there and grow your network with these people and build relationships with them so that when the time comes that they need video work done, you're the person that they think of. And number 5, market your work. Now that you've built a network of potential clients, you need to get them watching your videos, because if your work is really good, it should sell your services for you. But it will never do that if your potential clients never see it. So make sure that you are consistently and regularly posting your work on social media and creating other avenues for people to see it, like a YouTube channel, a blog, or an email list. If you do this right, you should always be the person that your prospects think of when they have video related needs. So there you go, 5 business tips for making money as a filmmaker. And if you do these things and follow this process religiously, you can flood your business with paying clients and even raise your rates and make more money. And more importantly, these things that I just shared with you are exactly what I did to go from working for practically free to getting my first paying clients and to making over $10,000 per project. And because I've been able to get higher paying clients for my work, it means that I can work a lot less and make the same amount of money. So I've freed up a lot of my time, which allowed me to dive in and create cinema mastery for you guys so that you can learn how to do this stuff the same way I did. So now I want to take some time and tell you a little bit about cinema mastery and show you what the full program includes. For anyone who's enjoyed this training and gotten good value out of it and wants to learn a ton more, remember this training's only been it's only going to be about an hour, and in Cinema Mastery, there's over 15 hours of content and growing. So for those of you that are ready to take your learning to the next level, this is going to be for you. So Cinema Mastery is a complete cinematography training course where I literally break down everything that goes into creating the cinematic look and teach you how to create better work and do better business as a filmmaker. I have a full section dedicated to helping you get your camera set up and running, no matter what type of camera you're shooting with. And I'll teach you how to properly control the motion in your shots, get that cinematic motion blur we talked about, to get amazing dynamic range out of your camera, create depth with your aperture and exposure, and properly white balance your images in any situation, and work with log footage or flat picture profiles to get the best possible image out of your camera. Plus, I'll share with you what cameras, lights, lenses, and other gear I recommend shooting with based on your budget and where to buy them to get the best price. This alone can make up more than the cost of the course because instead of wasting money on an expensive camera, you'll be able to make an informed buying decision on the right camera for you and get the best price for it. In the second section, I'll show you how to nail your exposure every time, how to motivate your images and use the right camera angles to tell stories better. We'll talk about camera movement and using the right focal length so your videos always look professional and cinematic. Next, we're spending a couple whole sections completely dedicated to lighting because, like I mentioned before, this is the most important thing you need to learn. You'll learn what tools to use to get the best lighting, whether it's the same lights that Hollywood professionals are using, or you want to know how to pick up lights from your local Home Depot. I'll teach you how to recreate the most common lighting techniques, including exactly where to place each light or piece of equipment to get cinematic looking lighting every single time. Next, we'll talk about production design, how to get the big look and get high production value even if you don't have a huge budget, how to location scout and find the right locations, how to shoot specifically during blue hour and golden hour for best results, and how to work with hair, makeup, wardrobe, and set design. In number 6, you'll learn about audio, how to capture good, clean audio, even if you don't have expensive microphones or preamps, or if you do have the budget, which ones to get and how to work with them most effectively, what the different types of mics are, and where to place them for the best quality sound, and how to edit with amazing sound design to make your videos really pop. 7th, I'm going to teach you my entire editing workflow so you can see how to edit quickly and effectively, no matter what editing software you're using. And I'll teach you how to color correct and color grade your videos so they look beautiful and cinematic, what LUTs or presets I use on every video, and how to do your color grading, whether you're using Premiere, Final Cut, or DaVinci Resolve, depending on your preference. And last but not least, I have a whole section dedicated to helping you to build a portfolio, get your work out there, and start getting paying clients for your work. Or if you already have paying clients, then to make more money from your work so you can work less and make the same amount of money and free up your time to do other things. We'll also talk about getting into the right mindset for business, how to work with and follow up with leads, and sales and marketing tactics that will get your clients to agree to your prices and hire you for your work. Plus, I'll share with you all of my favorite business books that have been inspirational and helped me to get to where I am, and I'll give you all the documents, contracts, and call sheets that you need to run your business. So that is some of the content you get with this course. Like I said, I'm constantly updating and adding to the course to keep it relevant and up to date. And because I know how important mentorship and peer review is when it comes to learning and mastering an art, I'm including myself as your personal mentor so you can learn from my experience and get your questions answered and get feedback on your work. And even more valuable than my mentorship is the mentorship, learning, and feedback you can get from our VIP Cinema Masters community, where we have hundreds of filmmakers just like you from all over the world who are learning and growing and there to help you do the same. I am also personally very active inside the community, so this is not like other courses where you download a bunch of videos and never hear from the instructor again. I will actually be your guide and be a help to you for as long as you are continuing to learn from the course. In addition, there's also a behind the scenes section where you can come on set with me virtually and see exactly how we create videos in our production company. I actually spend a lot of money hiring videographers to come on set with us and shoot behind the scenes footage of every single shoot we do so you can see exactly how it's done and work with confidence on your own video projects. And last but not least, as a member, you get access to a huge library of discounts on products like stock footage, color grading tools, and other trainings. And I'm constantly working with brands to add more of these discounts to the course. My goal with this is that you actually save more money than what you spend on the course by being able to take advantage of these exclusive offers that are only available for Cinema Masters. With everything that's included in the course, you're getting materials really that are well worth over $5,000. And that's just for the content that's already in the course, not including the content that is constantly being added over time. Oh, that was weird. But I'm sure you guys are all wondering, what about the price? Well, let's look at it this way real quick. You could get a new camera for anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000, depending on the quality of camera you want. Or you could get a new lens. You can get a really good quality stills lens, like a Canon L glass lens, for $2,000. But again, like I mentioned before, you should invest in learning and not gear. So investing in learning the traditional way, what does that look like? Well, to take one class at a film school, you're looking at around $3,000. That's for one class on one subject for one semester at a film school. But if you wanted to actually do a 4-year education, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars for traditional filmmaking education. Or you could do a private cinematography mentorship, which something for me would probably cost around $5,000. So it can be really expensive to learn cinematography the traditional way. But here's the good news, because I'm not going to charge you $5,000 for this course. I'm not even going to charge you $4,000. In fact, I'm not even going to charge you $2,000, because you can get access to Cinema Mastery for just one-time payment of $15.95. This is what the course sells to for the public. But for you guys, for being here tonight, I've got a special deal. Like I mentioned, I'm making an offer for you that you guys, for webinar attendees only, can get access to Cinema Mastery for just 6 easy payments of $149 a month. Or you can save an additional $100 by making an upfront payment of $795. Literally for just $149 today, you get immediate access to a wealth of knowledge that will put you on the path to finally making a good living as a filmmaker. So if you're serious about drastically improving your cinematography and growing your filmmaking business, then I want you to go to cinemamastery.com/start. And I'm going to pull up a button here that you can click on that will take you right to it. So you don't have to type that into your browser. Give me one sec. And there you go. There's that button, the orange button that says Start Cinema Mastery Now. Now, you'll notice that there's a timer on it. And because I'm mostly interested in working with people who are fast action takers, because I've noticed and I've found that they're the people who get the best results. And this program is all about helping people get results. So if you sign up in the next 20 minutes before the timer runs out, I'm going to give you an additional $200 off the course, and you can get access for just $595. This is the lowest price that I have ever offered. And the last time I offered this price was over a year ago, so this doesn't happen very often, but I am doing it as a special favor to you guys for being here on this webinar this week. Okay, so when you click on the button, it's going to take you over to the order form page. It's really simple. You're just going to fill out your information, choose the plan, and fill out your credit card information and click submit. And immediately you'll get an email from me that will, you can email me from me with a link to create an account on our membership site, which is where all of the course content is hosted, and you'll have access to this for life and anywhere that you go, so that you can go through and start learning the course materials. And plus, the site is mobile friendly as well, so you can actually take it with you on the go if you're traveling or if you're commuting to work, and you can be learning while you're going. So this is already an amazing deal. Wouldn't you guys agree that you can get access to Cinema Mastery just in the next 20 minutes for just $595? And I mean, literally your investment today is $5.95, or if it helps you to make monthly payments, you can pay just $149 today, and then you have a full 30 days before you make another payment, which means that you have an entire month to dig into the course content and start applying these principles before your next payment. If the course content helps you land just one client for just $200, you will already have made back your investment. And that's not including all the discounts and other resources that you get with the program. But in reality, members of Cinema Mastery are getting clients in the thousands and tens of thousands every day. So, and just so you guys know, if you're on the fence about this a little bit, the course does come with a 14-day guarantee. So if at any time within the next 2 weeks after signing up, if you're not happy for whatever reason, I will give you a full refund of the course. And I'm doing this because I'm confident that you're going to love it, and I want you to feel comfortable trying this out. If you're concerned about whether the course is actually what I've described to you today, is actually going to get you the results that you want, you can go in and check it out. Try it out right now. Go to cinemamastery.com/start, fill out the order form, and get started. And if you're not getting the results you want, or if you don't feel like the course is a good fit for you for any reason, no questions asked, I will give you a full refund. Now, with the course, you are getting lifetime access, so this is not something that you lose access to. You get access to everything that is in the course right now with this one-time cost, and access to all of the future content that is being added all the time. And again, at no risk, because I'm giving you a 14-day money-back guarantee. You let me know within 2 weeks, and if you don't like it, I will give you a full refund of your money. And your total investment today is just $5.95, which is an insanely good deal. Or you can make 6 monthly payments of just $149. And this price of the 6 monthly payments of $149 or the $7.95 price will be available for 4 days. The price is going back up to $15.95 Sunday at 11:59. But remember, for the next 20 minutes, we've got 16 minutes left on the clock. You can get access to Cinema Mastery for just $5.95. Okay. Now, wrapping things up here, I just want to share a quick testimonial with you guys from one of our members, Mike, who is a Cinema Mastery student. He's also an actor in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and a puppeteer for The Muppets. You might recognize him as this alien character in the Nine Numb from Star Wars. Mike joined Cinema Mastery because he was wanting to learn more about cinematography. Even though he's worked on set as an actor for many years, he wanted to learn more about cinematography. And Mike said, I've been on countless productions and been around some of the greatest cinematographers and DPs in the world. I knew how important lighting, lensing, exposure, framing, and camera moves were, but I never felt like I had the real command of this I knew I needed until I signed up for Cinema Mastery. Eric's program can help anyone become a working, paid, and confident cinematographer. He interacts personally with everyone and motivates us to get the best out of our work. He could easily charge twice as much for this, and it would be worth it. So there you go, guys. Quick recap, everything that you're getting with Cinema Mastery is everything that's on the screen here. And again, for the next 15 minutes, you can get access to this for just $5.95. Again, this is the lowest price that this course has ever been. And the last time I offered this price was over a year ago. So this doesn't happen very often. Or if the monthly payments are easier for you, you can do 6 monthly payments of just $149. Okay, we've got a few of you that have already signed up, so awesome. I'm excited to work with you guys, Henrik. Looking forward to it, man. And for the next 15 minutes while the clock is counting down and while you guys are thinking about it, figuring this out, what I want to go ahead and do is do some Q&A. Real quick before I do that, I know some of you guys are waiting for the free gift. And just so you know, the 3 Hollywood Lighting Techniques ebook can be found at cinemamastery.com/start. So go to that same link. If you click on the button that says Start Cinema Mastery, the orange button, scroll down past the order form all the way down to the bottom of the page. You'll be able to see there's the link that you can download the free gift. And thank you guys for sticking around to the end. For those of you that did, this is my free gift to you, and I really hope that you enjoy it and get some great value out of it. So, like I mentioned, for the next 15 minutes, what I want to do is just do some Q&A. If you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the chat and click the Ask a Question button so that I can see your questions and get them answered. And I'll spend the next little bit answering your questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Coolness, Kerwin. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it says, how do you pitch your clients? I have a website. I have a growing portfolio. How do I pitch or find clients? Apart from the production part, I graduated with a BFA. So how do you pitch your clients? And how do I pitch or find clients? So the best way, there's a lot of ways to find clients, right? There's a lot of marketing tactics out there, a lot of things you could be doing, but the best way I found to get clients is to follow the steps that I kind of walked you through today, where you build up your portfolio and do free work. So the most important thing is that you're doing free work so that you can build a portfolio that is specifically designed to attract your ideal client. A lot of people, you know, when they take their work out there and they show it to people, but their clients aren't hiring them, a big part of the problem is because your portfolio is not resonating with the people that you're trying to attract. So you have to make sure that your portfolio is designed to attract. So, and then the best way to get clients is to go out and start networking and meeting people. Just building your network, building up the amount of friends that you have on Facebook, getting to know people, building relationships, absolutely the best way that you can do that. And then not constantly, but consistently sharing your work and letting them know what you're up to, sharing behind the scenes information, showing them the projects you're working on, so that you are top of mind when they're ready to buy. There's a statistic out there that only probably 3% of people who are potential clients of yours are actually ready to buy right now. So if you go networking and you're talking to people and you're trying to sell your services immediately, you're actually turning off probably 97% of people that you're talking to. So by creating value and building relationships with someone and just talking to them and becoming friends with them, and then slowly over time showing them your work, that's going to be the best way to open up your work to people who are not ready to buy yet, but will be down the road, which is a majority of people in your market. Cool. Rakeem, what are some good gimbals and stabilizers to use? So there's a lot of options out there. If you're going for cheap, the most basic would be like a glide cam. There are knockoff versions of that, like a fly cam, which are not as nice, but still get the job done. You can get the same movement. They're just not as easy to balance. So glide cams are great for that kind of movement. Stabilizers, you've got the DJI Ronin is kind of on the lower end of things. The Ronin M, and the new, what's it called? The Ronin S that just came out recently. So there's those as well. Stabilizers like the Zhiyun Crane 2 is another one that's really popular for DSLRs. Or on the higher end of things, you can look at FreeFly Systems, Movi system, the Movi M10 and the Movi Pro. Those are quite a bit more expensive, but it just depends on the budget that you're going for. Steve, are you going to make this available so that we can watch it later? Yeah, so for you guys that were on the webinar live, I'll shoot you out a replay. I really appreciate you being here live, but I'll send a replay as soon as this is over, so that you guys can reference it. I don't usually like to do replays, but what I'll do is I'll just keep it up for a couple days, and then so you guys can come back and reference if you need to. Kerwin says, why record cinematic? 1080p video looks really sharp. Cinema video looks kind of dull. I'm not sure what you mean there. Maybe clarify for me what you mean by that. Henrik, thanks for the webinar. Looking forward to learning from the course. Gotta go. Awesome, man. Thanks for showing up, and looking forward to working with you. Okay, guys, there's 9 minutes left on the clock. Just a quick reminder, if you are on the fence about this, if you're curious about whether you should sign up or not, just remember that there is a 14-day money-back guarantee with the course. So if you have not, if you're a little bit on the fence about it, not sure whether it's a good fit for you, the best way, the only way for you to know whether it is a good fit for you is to just try it out. And I would encourage you to do that. Go to cinemamastery.com/start and just try it out. And again, on my honor, over the next 2 weeks, we're really good about handling these. If you are not fully excited about the course and loving it, digging it, and getting the results that you want, you just shoot me an email, eric@cinemamastery.com, or you can shoot at my support account, support@cinemamastery.com, and let me know, and I will give you a full refund, absolutely no questions asked, okay? Let's see, we've got Andy. What about people that are more on the intermediate to advanced level? So depending on where you're at, I would definitely recommend checking out Cinema Mastery because it is kind of a more advanced class. However, I started out by creating Cinema Mastery as a more advanced class to teach higher level cinematography technical techniques. And then what I did is I found there were a lot of people that actually wanted to learn some of the basics. So I went in and I added content that was more for beginners and help people kind of transition into Cinema Mastery. So basically now the course starts with the basics of camera settings, kind of like what we talked about today, and then makes its way up into more advanced lighting techniques. And we actually go into high level business and marketing techniques, lighting techniques, camera movement, storytelling, all sorts of stuff on that level. So I would definitely encourage you to check it out. Again, if you go in and you realize that it's not a good fit for you and you're beyond the level of this class, then again, I will give you a full refund. I'm not going to charge you for something that's not going to be valuable to you. So feel free to check it out. Edmund, since you're 27, so you're only a year older than me, shows I can become successful quickly as long as I'm willing to put in the work. Yeah, man, I'm pretty young, and I've only been at this for about 5 years since I started doing video for my first paying jobs. Now, previously to that, like I explained earlier, I was doing graphic design, and I've been running my own business since I was 13 and been self-employed since then. And so I do have a lot of years of business experience in sales and marketing and working with people and also teaching people, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, you know, don't feel like you have to be older or put in, you know, a ton of time to become successful at something like this. It's really just a matter of learning from the right places and getting that experience, right? Okay, we got 6 minutes left on the clock. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to post them in there. We'll keep doing Q&A. Excuse me, we'll keep doing Q&A until the clock runs out. And for those of you that already signed up, welcome, and looking forward to working with you. Nana, you're welcome. Rakeem, you're welcome. Thank you guys for being here on the webinar. This has been fun. Edmund, worked on my first promo project recently. Fell in love with the process and feeling of accomplishment. Yeah, man. I remember doing my first promo project, my first commercial work, about 5 years ago, and that was it was such a cool experience being able to like do something that I loved and get paid to do it, and something like it was just fun for me. I was doing videos for free for the longest time, and I just loved it. And then I found somebody who would pay me for it, and it just made it even better. So that's super cool. Are you going to sign up, ma'am? We're going to see you in there. Steve, are these live classes or a course I do at my own pace? Sorry. Oh, yeah, Steve, no problem. So the classes are a course that you can do at your own pace. So once you sign up, you'll have access to all of the course content. You can go through it all in maybe a couple days, which would be crazy, but you could, I guess, if you wanted to, or, you know, you could take a few months to go through it. It's really totally up to you. There's also action items at the end of each lesson. So basically, I wanted to make sure that, you know, it's not just a course where you go through and watch videos and then gain some information and that's it. Like, I know that the real knowledge of learning filmmaking comes from practice and experience. And so at the end of each section, I've got action items and actually little to-do list items for you to do so that you can go out and actually get experience with little challenges where you can get experience with the concepts that I'm teaching. So if you take the time to go through all of those and get it done, it's going to take you probably at a minimum, you know, a couple weeks, if not like a few months to actually get through all of the course content. And you know, there's lots of course content in there. And again, we're adding content all the time. So that answers your question. Andy Adams, would you ever consider looking at people's reels and critiquing them? So yeah, as a member of Cinema Mastery, you have access to me for any time that you need advice or feedback on your work. You can post it in our Facebook group, and I will give you my feedback on your reel, on your portfolio, on any of your work. any of that. I do a lot of that. And so I've looked at lots of people's reels, lots of people's portfolios, and I have and given people a lot of feedback on their work. And so I've seen pretty much everything, and I'm usually pretty good at like dissecting the problems with stuff and giving it to you pretty plain. There's 3 minutes left on the clock. If you guys want to get this deal, this is the last chance to get access to Cinema Mastery for just $5.95, again, which is the lowest price that I've ever offered. So definitely check it out if you're interested. Again, there's a 14-day money back guarantee. So if you if you really are not sure whether it's a good fit for you, just try it out. Let me know if it's not, and I'll give you a refund back. Steve, is the class mainly geared towards DSLRs or other video cameras as well? I use Panasonic HD cameras. Yeah, so the class was specifically designed to work for any camera. So I don't talk when I'm teaching like the techniques or the technical aspects of cinematography. I don't talk about like specific cameras and how to do things on specific cameras. The idea is I teach you the concepts that can be used on any camera. And we do have people in the course who are using some of those camcorders or HD cameras from Panasonic, just like you, and getting really good results with it. I personally love DSLRs for starting out just because they have the interchangeable lenses that are really nice. They allow you to kind of do a little bit more, but absolutely all of the camera settings that I'm going to be sharing in the course are you can find on your camera, and you can do, you won't be limited at all in the course by using a camera like that. Good question. Okay guys, there's about a minute and a half left. If you haven't yet, click on the button to go to Start Cinema Mastery and sign up now so that you can get this offer. Once the clock runs out, I'm going to go ahead and remove the $5.95 price. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to post them in the chat while we're waiting. Okay, we got about 40 seconds left on the clock. A couple more people signing in. Almost there. Okay, awesome. And there's the end of the 20 minutes. Let me go in here and just make this change real quick. And again, super looking forward to working with those of you that got signed up. That's awesome. I'm going to switch this up real quick in a second. Okay, and there we go. For the rest of you, if you are not signing up right now, I know we got a few of you in here, so that's awesome. But if you are still interested but not ready to make the decision right now, I totally understand. Sometimes you need to think about it for a minute. Sometimes you need to talk to a spouse or parents or whatever. Definitely feel free to do that. Again, the price of $7.95, which is still just like an amazing deal, and that's the price that I've given to people on past webinars. It's still really such a good value. Or you can make 6 monthly payments of just $149. That price is still going to be available until Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So you have 4 days to take care of it. I'll shoot you some emails to remind you and to give you some more information about the course. So you have time to think about it and to figure it out before you have to make the commitment. But for those of you that signed up now, really looking forward to working with you, and that is awesome. Let me just double check this. Okay, cool. Well, guys, once again, thank you so much for coming out to this webinar and for tuning in. It's been really awesome for me sharing this information with you and hanging out with you guys for the last hour. I really hope that you enjoyed it. For those of you that signed up, obviously we're going to be working together more in depth, and that's going to be awesome. But for those of you that didn't, I hope that this was at least valuable to you and you were able to learn and glean a few things off of it. I tried to make it as valuable as possible so that regardless of whether you decide to take me up on the offer, you're still getting value out of it, you're still enjoying it, and I'm still providing a valuable, worthwhile training for you. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for signing in. If you have additional questions, feel free to email me at eric@cinemamastery.com. You've already gotten emails from me reminding you about the webinar. If you respond to any of those, if you reply to them, those will go right to my email inbox, and I'm pretty good about responding to emails within a couple of days. So feel free to email me if you have questions. And I like chatting with you guys and responding to your questions and helping you out. So once again, thank you for being on the webinar. It's been a blast hanging out with you over the last hour, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one. We'll see ya.